Podcast. It has been a while. I think we took off most of January to figure out what we're going to talk about this year. And we've got a great lineup for you. This is episode 29. 29. This is awesome. We're really excited about this. Listen, it's a long journey in the world of podcasting, right? Long journey. And today we've got two podcasts, actually, and both on the topic of wine. We are now live on LinkedIn. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube and Twitter. And we'll also make all of our content available in the replay format on all of those networks, as well as on our website, skuagency.com/podcast, as well as wherever you listen to your audio podcasts. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. My name is Remy. I'm the host of the show. I'm also one of the managing partners here at SKU Agency. So let's get this thing started. This is just the beginning. All right. So two webinars here, two podcasts today on the topic of wine. But sadly, I do not have a glass of wine in front of me because it is rather early in the morning. We'll leave that to later on in the day. And just as important, we are talking about metrics today. Sometimes people look at metrics and they don't get as excited, but quite frankly, I get very excited because metrics help you measure your business and ultimately set you on the stage for growth. So we didn't have to look too far to find an expert in this area, a bona fide expert, mind you, on the topic of metrics and reporting. Our guest is the founder of WinePulse, the leading reporting solution for wineries. Many of you in the industry probably know him and know him very well. He's at every show and very active within the community. So without any further ado, please welcome Remy Sabiani to the E-Commerce Revolution podcast. Remy, thank you very much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Good morning, Remy. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Yes, I'm happy that I met you, and I only met you back in December. And you have shown me a lot about the wine industry. You've told me who the people are that we should be talking to, and educating me on the process, and then most importantly, on how WinePulse works and how the software can ultimately benefit. Which is, I think, this is again a very, very important topic. So before we get started, just tell everybody where you're calling in, connecting from today.
Well, I live in rural Paso Robles, California. Paso is one country in California. It's still a fairly small town. And I live very, very remotely in the middle of nowhere. As a joke, I tell my neighbors are the coyotes.
I love it. And I've been to Paso Robles many times, and it is gorgeous. On the way to Santa Barbara, which is obviously also just as beautiful, but a wonderful part of California. And you sound like you have a very relaxed setting where you can think, build, grow.
The setting is relaxed. The daily routine is a bit more stressful.
I get it. So wherever we are, our stresses continue to go with us is really what you're saying at the end of the day, right?
Well, yeah.
Well, I thank you for coming on. And, this topic is, as I said, in the beginning, important to me. We spend a lot of time in the work that we do on email and SMS marketing, honed in on the metrics. The metrics matter so much. So, and I find it very interesting that, just in general in the business world, people sometimes, don't pay as much attention as they should to the metrics. So I think today I would love to make sure everybody has a relaxed mentality going into this, and that they regularly check the metrics for their wineries using WinePulse. So before we dive into everything, into the main topics, tell us just a little bit about the business journey that brought you to where you are today and to get you to start and build WinePulse. How did it all start?
Well, it started with, I was a consultant for many years, working on the implementation of ERP financial systems, first for very large companies, then for 10, 15 years, then working more like with mid-sized companies in my area. And then through some contacts and contracts, I realized that there was obviously a lot of wineries where I live, and that there was not really a reporting solution for these wineries. And then I thought about it. I was like, well, they kind of like have the same business model. They have tasting room, they have club, they have e-commerce. They must be tracking the same kind of metrics. And they are tracking the same kind of metrics, but there
Mhm.
was nothing that will automate that for the
Ah.
wineries.
Hmm.
And then through some connection in the industry, I was introduced to some wineries, and I said, well, I have an idea of a
Mhm.
business, but in order to build a business, I need data.
Right.
If you let me access your data, I will build the platform, and then once it's ready, you will have access to it for free for 1 year.
Wow. Brilliant.
And that's how it started. And that's how
Wow.
it started. And it was in 2019, early 2019. And now I have over 185 wineries using OnePulse.
Wow. That's a great
So
story.
yeah.
Did you during the pandemic, did you see a surge in people, signing up for Wine Pulse because of what was happening, I guess, on the e-commerce side of things when it came to wine sales? Did you have a surge in your business as well, or was it just a nice
The
growth?
growth has been steady. There
Nice.
was particularly a surge during COVID. But what happened during the reopening, there was a
Mhm.
lot of turnaround at wineries.
Mhm.
They were hiring, people were switching jobs, and that was my number one source of leads. People
Wow.
who had worked at a winery using OnePulse and then going to work for another winery
Uh,
and
right.
suggesting to use OnePulse.
That's great. Yeah, you had a built-in lead system essentially right there.
And
Yeah.
I can tell you that the turnaround it has slowed quite a bit.
Oh, okay. All right. Interesting.
Yes, they're not hiring as much right now.
Not hiring. Okay. All right. Well,
People
we'll get
stay where they
into
are.
we're gonna get into maybe why they're not hiring as much, and this, some of this comes into the reporting side of things and what's happening actually in that side. One of the on your intake notes, one of the mottos that really jumped out at me. I love this that you said. You can't improve what you only. You can't improve what you're not measuring. You have to
Right.
measure right all the
Exactly.
time. Do you find that wineries and just the folks from the DTC side of the business that are should be in Wine Pulse probably regularly? Do you find that there is any kind of hesitation just looking at the analytics that it becomes like just another thing to do, or can you see the engagement? Is it very active? Are people very active in Wine Pulse looking at the data regularly?
So it depends on the winery. Some
Hmm.
wineries are very active. They use a lot of reports. They run report constantly. But when I
Hmm.
say constantly, that would be daily or things
Right.
like that. And I can measure that and I can track it.
Hmm.
Um, what I but what all our clients also what's happening with all our clients is that every morning they receive an email
Mm.
with their DTC performance, and they
Right.
know automatically every morning what was their sales yesterday, how they doing month to date, how they doing year to date, what is the sales associate performance, which products they have been selling
Hmm.
automatically every morning. And for some wineries, they're happy with that.
Yeah.
Uh, but of course, all of them, I would say, then go in OnePulse and dig further. But
Right.
my guess is that some people may say, hey, I need to dig into my data, and they're going to take an hour and 2 hours and
Hmm.
run plenty of reports. Some other people are going to be like, no, I need to see my best customers at risk every day because I
Hmm.
want to take actions around that.
Yeah.
And so it depends. It depends on the winery, it depends on the size, it depends on the role of the people.
Sure. Yeah. I feel like looking from the outside, looking in, I feel that, if I saw areas of my business that needed help, I would be digging into the data regularly. But I understand that there are psychological barriers to also looking at data. Sometimes people get a little, but I love the fact that you get an email in the morning. Yeah. I love that. That's a
And
great way you pull somebody into the mix. And how often do wineries reach out to you? I assume during the onboarding process for those who are new to listening to this for the first time, finding out potentially about Wine Pulse for the first time. What is your process? Do you train them on what they should be looking for and looking at regularly?
so the process is, the typical process. You give a demo, you follow
Hmm.
up, they sign up, and then you start the deployment. We download the historical orders for the last 5 years now,
Hmm.
and then we ask a set of questions. I won't go into all the details, but
Right.
you ask a set of questions around mapping, around
Hmm.
counting tasters, identifying bottles poured because they want to track bottles sold versus bottles poured. The
Hmm.
sample bottles that they use to, serve you wine.
Sure.
And then they answer a set of questions, and then they're live. Some
Wow.
wineries, it takes 2 days. Some wineries, I just did a follow-up, it takes 3 weeks.
Okay. So
Uh, and
everything is,
then
everybody is different. Everybody is different.
everybody's
Yes. Yes.
and then once they have access to the report, we schedule a training, and most of the time the training is recorded, and then they can watch it later.
Hmm.
And I spend a lot of time also answering questions. People reach out, they have questions. Um, I I do data justification quite a bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, people
Wow.
reach out and say, "Hey, I don't understand. Why do I see these numbers? How do you calculate this metric?"
Hmm.
And I would say 80, 90% of the time,
Hmm.
uh, you explain and they're like, oh, I didn't know that. So you justify the data. And sometimes it happens. You're like, there was something to tweak here. There was something to fix.
Interesting.
Um, but
Yeah.
I call it data justification. It's very important in the business because if you send reports and provide metrics to wineries,
Hmm.
they need to trust the system. So they need to know that the metrics are accurate.
Yeah. Well, it's
Otherwise, you
interesting.
have
I
a
mean,
big problem.
it's funny that, I mean, I love, we've, spoken to a couple of other software companies like yourself and the ones out there, that customer service in this side, especially in this industry, I feel this one-on-one service level is really important. And it's unusual because if you look in some other industries, software companies are basically, you can't reach them, right? You have to go through, you send an email, maybe you get an email back, and that's it.
Fair. Yeah, good
Yeah.
luck to reach out to Google support if you ever need
Right,
something.
right.
Uh, no, it's obviously an
Yeah.
amazing company. You're right. It takes time, but it's very important. It's
Yeah.
extremely important.
Yeah.
It's
No.
it's a top priority to return all emails, all questions, and promptly.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, that's a motto we live by. There is no email, even late in the evening, in the day, because sometimes, things are urgent. Sometimes things matter. Sometimes decisions have to be made earlier in the morning, and maybe they're just getting around to it, right? And they're just getting around to looking at this information, and you try to get it to them as quickly as possible. That's great. I love that. I sat down, you put out you put out your year in review, which is such a great thing because you have data from all of these wineries. And, at the end of the day, there are a number of different wine reports that come out, right? From, Sovos puts out one, Silicon Valley Bank puts out one, but yours is literally coming from, the source, the wineries themselves, literally looking at the data in there. So I sat down and I took a look at it. I saw it in January, looked at it, and then looked at it again. I did sit down with a glass of wine. I will admit, I had a glass of wine and I read it. To make sure I understood everything was going in there. And there's a few things that stood out. And if you don't mind, I'd like to bring them up because I'd love for you to elaborate on them. So online sales, you put in there, online sales are slowing with in all regions. They're trending downwards. Okay. E-commerce sales, I think you put in the
Yeah, yeah.
minus 17% compared to 2021. What's happening there? What is happening? Is this a normalization of what happened in during the pandemic, or are we looking at something else?
We're looking at just like 2021 was still COVID time,
Yeah.
and people were buying online. A lot of people didn't
Hmm.
want to go in tasting rooms, and so they would buy online. And we're
Okay.
just, I think, seeing a normalization of things.
Okay.
And 2 years ago, some people were saying that um, virtual tastings was the thing of the future. Nobody is doing virtual tasting.
No, no, people they like to see other people. They like to
Of
see it. They
course,
like to, swirl. Yeah.
COVID didn't change us. We're human and we like social interaction.
Right, right. Okay. So then what about on the other side, on club signups? The club signups are down. It's a small number, down
Yeah,
3%.
yeah. I mean, I would
Like,
say, yeah, it was slightly down for 2022 compared to 2021.
mhm,
Well, one of the reason is that 2022 by Q4, there was things had started to slow down a little bit for
mhm,
some wineries, not everybody, and um, and so you have less traffic, so less tasters,
mhm,
and then it becomes more difficult to have as many sign up as before.
mhm.
So you can train your staff to do a better job at converting tasters into new club sign up. But if you
Mhm.
have less traffic, the one of the impact is a lower not a lower conversion rate, but a lower total number of sign up.
Okay. All right. This number got my attention, more than any of the attrition that's happening.
Yes.
Yeah, that's that's a
So
concerning number to me.
definitely,
Yeah.
yes. But again, it depends.
Okay.
So there was definitely a higher attrition
Hmm.
in 2022 compared to 2021. So first, let's define what is attrition.
Okay.
So attrition is basically measuring between two dates how many members canceled, how many members you had at the beginning of this period, how
Hmm.
many members canceled between the 2 days. So in 2022, in that case, that
Hmm.
measures your attrition. And
Okay.
it's normal. Some people are going to leave the club. But what we saw is that there was a higher attrition in 2022 versus 2021.
Mm.
And it could be because of COVID, people were staying in the club, so they were sure to receive their shipments because they didn't want to go to the tasting room,
Hmm.
blah, blah, blah. There is also, potentially a slowdown, with the economy, and people are like, maybe I shouldn't be part of all these clubs, and
Right.
they canceled some of them. And but it really depends. I've got to say that we did a study, also a deeper study of these metrics for Wise Academy, and we found out. I found out that attrition was higher. So the smaller wineries were losing more members, basically,
Mm.
as a ratio, versus the bigger wineries as a ratio. And
Okay.
and I'm sure it's one of the reasons is because the bigger wineries, they're good at this customer interaction. They have
Right.
the resources maybe to have automated campaigns to do this
Hmm.
reach out at specific moments of the journey of the customer and the club member that the
Hmm.
smaller wineries can do,
Right.
and it does pay off.
Yeah.
It does pay
Well,
off.
well, it's interesting. I mean, right before we came on, we were talking about you had a chance to do a demo of of Klaviyo and just
Yes.
email marketing, automated email marketing coming into play. That can help decrease those numbers, right? That is, something you
Oh, yeah.
talk about that communication, that interaction. We find that so many wineries, are not doing it consistently, right? They're not communicating consistently. So, it's the top of mind. So when a customer is looking at, oh wow, I didn't realize I was part of 10 winery, 10 clubs all of a sudden, and they're doing a reevaluation, they may potentially drop the one that's not being, that's not paying attention to them, that they're not getting,
Mhm.
that communication. Potentially that could be,
It's
a good
absolutely
source in there.
possible.
So, this is definitely an area that we look at, and it is important to help, and we know how important club is. I mean, you said with half of DTC
Very
sales
important.
are coming from club, that you
Yeah.
have to work on that, to getting that attrition number down and keeping people focused. So, back to looking at your metrics regularly, and you see information like this, you can make changes. You're going to make changes based
Oh,
on what you're measuring, right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things we do is customer analysis. So wineries have access to reports with some
Hmm.
customer information, and we have a report that shows you your club members at risk.
Yeah.
So basically, and the way it works is we calculate, okay, what is the average tenure
Hmm.
people have stayed in a club in the past before canceling?
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
so for a given winery on club XYZ, it's going to be 32 months. Okay,
Okay.
on average, people stayed 32 months before canceling. Okay, so now among my active members,
Hmm.
who is around this tenure? Who is around 32
Yeah.
months, 28 months, whatever it is for your club? And so we give the list of club members
Right.
at risk. We're
Yeah.
not saying they're going to cancel. We're saying, well, look, in the past, people have canceled around that
Right.
time.
Yeah.
So maybe it's time to reach out. Maybe it's time to do something special.
Hmm.
And I mean, we're just providing the metrics and the information.
Yeah.
And it's up to the winery to act.
Yeah, and we love that, because then we look at that metric and we're going to make sure that there's automated emails going out ahead of that potential drop off period. Let's get it out. Let's talk to them, and then if they do drop off, let's get them to come back. Maybe pause. There's all these kind of things we can do.
Oh.
To make sure it's taking a playbook out of what all the subscription companies do. Right, when you call and you want to cancel your subscription, they're going to try everything possible to keep you in the mix.
And that's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair
yeah.
game.
Yeah. This one really, I love this one. Texas. Okay. And we've talked about Texas. Okay. And that we're calling in from Austin, that Texas has the highest overall DTC sales increase at 9% across all channels. What's happening in Texas? What's going on here?
So I have a joke. I made up the joke. Okay.
Okay.
In Napa, there is a famous Highway 29.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
where
Yeah.
all the fancy big wineries are on Highway 29.
Yes.
And in Texas, most of the wineries are around Fredericksburg,
Yes.
and they're around Highway 290. So
Uh-huh.
my joke is like, hey, I think Highway 290 is a new Highway 29.
Oh, look at
Um,
that. Look at that. I think we need to go trademark something quickly,
yeah, here we
immediately.
go. And
I love it.
it's very interesting. I was in Fredericksburg last June,
Mhm.
and invited by William Chris Winery,
Oh,
super
yeah.
nice folks. And
Beautiful place. Beautiful. Yeah.
yeah, I visited many of my clients and over there. And yeah, it's interesting what they're doing, because what they're doing in Texas is
Mhm.
they have, I'm oversimplifying, but they have disconnected the location where they grow
Ah,
the vines
yeah.
and where the tasting room are.
Hmm.
Most of the wine sold in Fredericksburg, tasting rooms and all that, is not necessarily coming from Fredericksburg.
Right. Right.
So it's very interesting that, yeah, so there is this disconnect. And so it's a little bit of a different business model,
So
maybe.
it's breaking the norm, right? Breaking out of the
Okay.
norm of the way this is how it's always been done. So we have to do it this way, right?
Yeah, I guess. And I mean, the wineries are beautiful. Some of them
They
are,
are.
just are massive, beautiful, and
Yes.
it's very pleasant.
Yeah.
So, and California and Texas are the two biggest states, in the
Yeah.
US. So, hey, there's no reason that
Yeah.
Texas is not going to get big on wine.
Now, Oregon, Washington is still bigger than Texas, right? Yes. In
Uh,
terms of in terms of sales, yes.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes.
Okay. All right.
But
Well,
the growth is in Texas. I
it's
mean, I know even some people in Paso who are opening wineries in Fredericksburg.
wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, good. Yes, we like that. We like that. Very nice.
And super nice
So
folks over there. Super nice folks.
exactly. Well, that's great. I mean, so at the end of the day, I think to these numbers, and I love again that you put out this report, and I look forward to it every year because that gives us a good snapshot. But people should be in there looking at the data regularly and what's happening. So
Our clients can look at they can obviously see their performance information, but
yeah,
they can look at the peers information as of last night midnight.
right. Okay. Well, very nice.
Everybody, all the metrics are recalculated every night for all our clients,
What
including the
advice?
peers.
What advice do you give them when they call you with these? Remy, are these numbers correct? I see some troubling signs here. Do you give them advice, or do you guide them to you should be doing more marketing, more this, more that?
No,
No.
no, I have a very strict rule that I'm not in the business of telling wineries what to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
First, because I don't know what I would be talking about,
Right.
and second, because the core thing I'm focusing on is providing metrics, reports that are
Yeah.
accurate and delivered in a timely manner.
Okay.
I don't do consulting. I don't do marketing. They are experts in this field. I'm not
Right.
one of them. So
Okay. Very,
it's very strict.
fair enough. You stay in your lane, as they say.
No.
Fair enough. Yeah. All right. So let's talk. I mean, the topic of this podcast is metrics that every winery should monitor to help grow their DTC sales. Let's talk about maybe five of them that you feel that if you were going to tell somebody, all right, this is what should be on your dashboard. Let's talk. Can you tell us which ones those are?
So there are a lot of metrics, but if there
Yeah.
were first you need to know what are your sales year to date, month to date, and how you're tracking versus the same year to date, same month to date last year. You need to have an idea where you stand with the business. You need to have a pretty good view of how many of traffic. So that would be tasters. Same thing. How many tasters did we have yesterday, month to date, year to date? Do we have any issue with people walking in the tasting room?
Mm-hmm.
Another metric that is very important to look at is your overall number of active members. Is it going up? Is it going down?
Okay.
How many members do I have in my club? How is it trending since the beginning of the month, since the beginning of the year? Mm-hmm. If something is happening, you want to find out. Right. And then you dig a little bit further. So let's say if you're DTC manager or tasting room manager, there are over metrics focusing on tasting room that are extremely important.
Okay.
Obviously, sales and tasters are information you should know like at any time. It should be easy for you to know what are my tasting room sales yesterday, month to date, year to date, and what about tasters. But then there are three other metrics that are very important for tasting room. So wine is wine average order value. So wineries, most of them, they're in the business of selling bottles of wine. That's why they invite you to taste the wine or they serve you a glass of wine. They're in the business of selling bottles of wine. And it sounds obvious, but so you should know as a winery, okay, at the tasting room, what is my wine average order value? When people buy wine from me, on average, how much wine do they buy? And you want these metrics, obviously, to go up, okay? That's one thing. So the second metric is the wine order conversion rate. So you're in the business of selling bottles of wine. That means converting people from tasting your wine into buying your wine. That's the wine order conversion rate. That's another metric that you want to monitor, okay? And a good number would be 45, 50% conversion rate.
Okay, all right, wow.
Then there is another metric, is the tasting room club conversion rate. Okay. So obviously, the ultimate thing is people signing up for the club. Okay.
Right.
So that measures the conversion of people that were not of tasters that were not club members into new club sign up. Okay. So and that a good metric would be around 10, 12%. Some wineries, including in your area, do an amazing job at converting people.
Wow.
Some in other regions or other places, not so much. So really, because there is one thing that is, I mean, it's you can't really control the number of tasters coming in. I mean, you can because you're doing promotion and stuff like that, but there are a lot of external factors that people are not going to say, well, the economy is what it is, I'm not going to go to the tasting room. But once they are at the tasting room, it's up to the staff to do a good job at selling wine, at selling wine, at maintaining a good average order value, and at converting people into new club sign-up. That is the job of the management and the staff in the tasting room. You know, an associate at tasting rooms, they can control the number of tasters. But they should control, they should be aware of their average order value and their conversion rate.
Okay. All right. That's very interesting. You know, I mean, the tasting room is, you know, that's the experience, right? You come in for the experience and you get to taste and sip and learn and be educated. So yes, you know, it's funny. I've been into tasting rooms where they don't pay much attention to you. They don't, you know, they just pour the wine and they move on. And then other tasting rooms where they're very actively involved in educating you on what you're experiencing. And then, yes, being salespeople, you know, they're educators, but they're also marketers in the tasting room. And they need to, you know, if you're not going to buy, then maybe it's at least get you on the email list for a special offer and then be able to let some technology take over at the end of the day if they can't do it right there.
And you're going to remember how you felt that day at the tasting room.
Yeah.
You know, and how you connected with the people, with maybe the surrounding, with the wine itself, and you're going to remember that.
Yeah, and I think in your report you did note that tasting room was on down, right? It was I think sales, they were down. Is that what's happening there? I mean, is that
it's Q4 2022, things were slowing down. The summer of 2022, very difficult comps also compared to 2021. Right. Because summer 2021, it's the reopening, people want to be out. Yeah. You know, it's tough comps when you think about it. Versus 2021. There have been so many whipsaws since 2020. Yeah. That was 2020 on COVID. Yeah, that was 2020.
Yeah. we don't even remember. I'm like, wait, what year are we in? Oh, it's 2023. Right. Okay.
So there were so many whipsaws. And now there's potentially the economy slowing down, and it does have an impact.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Tell me, do you integrate with other software as well? Does WinePulse integrate with other software to see other data out there?
So we integrate with the two biggest POS systems in the wine industry.
Okay, yeah, with them, but like outside of the POS, any others? You know, are you integrating? I know you have a integration with Digimatic to see some Klaviyo data, yes. Right?
Fair. Yeah. We integrate with Digimatic in order to provide for wineries that use Commerce 7 and Digimatic, which integrates with MailChimp and
Klaviyo.
Klaviyo,
Yeah.
we have some reports to provide email analytics reports to wineries, and also through Digimatic to be sure that. So one thing that OnePulse is doing is tagging customers, especially in Commerce 7. Who are my best customers? Who are my customers at risk? Who are my loyal customers? Who are my dormant customers? And then, so we tag the customers in Commerce 7, and then through Digimatic, these tags flow into MailChimp or Klaviyo.
Okay. So that's creating the segments, creating important segments
Absolutely.
to look at. Which, we really, I mean, we love segments because you're putting the right people in the right, category, and then giving them the right information, right, at the end of the day. And in your case, what Wine Pulse is able to do is to see what's happening in that category, in that segment. Are they reacting properly to promotions? Are they, what is happening in their business overall, but by segment, which is a nice granular look, right?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I think that I believe the more data advanced wineries look at is a segment, for example, like the best customers at risk.
Okay.
So basically, it's a way to look at your customer purchase history and say, okay, I want to know for all my customers, when was the last time they ordered wine? How many times they ordered wine, let's say the last 2 years, and how much wine did they buy in the last 2 years? What you want to find out is the people that are kind of like, they're still among your top buyers of wine for the last 2 years, they're still among your most frequent buyers of wine for the last 2 years, but for some reason, they're not ordered recently compared to others.
Okay.
So what I describe is like they're in the process of forgetting about your winery. And the longer they're going to wait before ordering from you, the higher the chance they won't order again.
Yeah.
Because they visited over tasting rooms and they had a good time at this over place, and
right.
It's very competitive. So it's to reach out to these best customers at risk. They love your wine. They're among your top buyers of wine.
Yeah.
They're among your most frequent buyers of wine.
Yeah.
But hey, compared to others, they're not purchased recently. What's going on?
Right. Well, I feel, definitely, the winery business has a lot of its own nuances, right? Very particular, but there are so many areas where you can look to the world of e-commerce. And, you're looking at, you're mentioning words like average order value, you're looking at conversion. These are all things that are, so important in the world of general e-commerce, if you will. But to the winery, they have multiple channels within their own business. So they have to look at, how do I take that tasting room person, convert them into a wine club? How do I, maybe that person who bought in the tasting room, how do I get them to repeat purchase if they're not going to join the wine club? How do I, and especially a lot of people traveling and coming to the winery and, and leaving and going back to their state where they came from and being able to access that product again. They had such a great experience. So I think all of these, matter. And really at the end of the day, looking at that data is going to help you make those decisions.
And you know what? I bet you that a tourist going to Napa or wherever and visiting 10 wineries in 3 days, and then they're going back home in Chicago, New York, or wherever, I bet you they don't even remember for sometimes the name of the winery.
Yeah, you're right.
What was the name of this winery?
Yeah.
Where, the second day at 11 a.m.
Yeah, no, you're right. Absolutely right. But it'd be nice if something popped up in their inbox or in their SMS and like, oh yeah, that place. That's where I need to be. That's where I was.
Sometimes, because, especially when you're in a touristic area.
Sure.
You're
going to a lot of places.
Going to a lot of places. And what was this one again?
That's great. What's the one thing that when you got into this business and when you started to reach out and talk to wineries and learn, what was the one thing that surprised you was there anything that surprised you? Like, oh my gosh, I had no idea about that. Or was it all, this is normal business?
I don't remember, but I would say that it's not a surprise, of course, but I'm very respectful of how difficult and competitive industry the wineries are in.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, it's friendly. It's it's hospitality. It's a very competitive business.
Yes,
it's a very challenging business. I mean, the upfront cost to grow the wine, to build a winery. I mean, the labor cost, the material cost. I'm very respectful of how challenging this industry is, and it's full of very nice people.
Yeah.
So So it was not really a surprise, but I'm always I value the dollars coming from my clients.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful, and I look at it, I love the camaraderie, I love the heritage. Every winery, most, they have a great story, right, of how this happened, how the family came, they were immigrants, they came to this country, and they found a plot of land which is probably now very valuable in Napa. Yes, and they found it back in the 40s or in the 50s, and they pass it to generation to generation. And that story to me is so important to tell that story. That so much of what we do in the marketing side of things is, we are enlightening people on the story behind it. I'm a sucker for the backstory. Give me the backstory on the product, the founder, how did they come to this and why did they do it? So that is something that I appreciate in these conversations that we're having with wineries regularly is, tell me about the history. And sometimes I know I'm speaking to the DTC person and they're not part of that heritage, but they're very knowledgeable on that heritage.
They should know the story for sure.
Yeah. Right. They should be able to tell the story because you got people like me who just sit at the counter and sip wine and just hear the story. I want to hear the story. How did it all happen? That's wonderful. That's wonderful. All right. Well, listen, at the end of the day, I think, where we sum up here is, how important the metrics are in any business. But, you made a point here about, wineries, how hard it is for in the wine business. There's so many facets. There are challenges, right? They're dealing with a product that is, could die on the vine, right? It could not make it past, and is very susceptible to, the elements. But ultimately, when it gets produced, and you get it, bottled and it's ready for consumption, you have to look at your metrics and you have to figure out where your business is working, where the areas are not. And the areas are not, you have to put the effort in to make it work. And I think, Wine Pulse at the end of the day brings that element of, that data-driven approach to a fun industry. Really a fun industry.
And also it takes time the metrics that we calculate, that we provide for the reports and all of that. Anyone can do it. You can spend hours every day in Excel. And do your thing. But hopefully, what we're trying to do is to save winery time, so they don't have to spend hours to calculate their metrics.
Yeah.
And we provide this information hopefully in what is something that is easy to look at and interpret, and so they can take action. And my hope is that they spend more time taking action using the data rather than calculating the data themselves.
Yeah, no,
that's
true.
The idea of the business.
Yeah, you lost me at Excel, looking at reports in Excel. Woo! That's gonna, there's a having a nice graphical interface to look at also is a big plus, and I know you've covered that point already. Well, that's great. I really really you coming on. And would you be open to doing some quick rapid fire questions that we do at the end to kind of, we talk about such a important topic, and it is very important. But let's talk about some things that are fun too. Like to kind of wrap it up with some fun things. All right. So what gets you excited? You're an entrepreneur, so this is perfectly suited for you. What gets you excited to wake up in the morning and tackle the day? Is there one thing?
When it comes to business?
Yeah.
It's to be sure that all the data have been synchronized correctly during the night.
That's it. Wow. Okay.
Here, everything is automated, but it starts to be a lot of wineries and a lot of data.
Yes, you have a responsibility.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a small window. It's between midnight and 5 a.m. basically. So it's automated, but still.
Well, when that's happening, and as you get up, is there a drink of choice in the morning that keeps you?
Coffee.
Well, how do you take your coffee?
Black.
Oh, that's it, man. That's like, I think 95%. This is episode 29. 95%, maybe even a little more. Black coffee. That's it. Nobody puts anything in their coffee anymore.
Nothing. Zero.
Nothing. That's fascinating. All right. So, we're talking wineries here. Do you have a favorite wine? And maybe give me a varietal. You don't have to give me a brand because I know you have a lot of brands and you don't want to, single anybody out. But what do you enjoy? What's your choice?
I can give you the brand. My favorite. I am from Corsica.
Yes.
And there is a wine region in Corsica, Patrimonio, and I love drinking wine from Patrimonio.
Oh, really? Okay.
They're not a customer. They don't even know I exist. But evil age in Patrimonio. They make amazing red and white. And
wow. Okay, Michael, we should put a link to that. We'll find that online and maybe I'm also very intrigued by, wine from, Europe. I think, I mean, that's, let's talk about the old way, that is it. And so many amazing wineries all around the world. And by the way, I'm fascinated to know how many wineries every state in the United States has a winery, correct? I mean, are we at that level?
I don't know if it
almost
is every state, but
close.
I mean,
I read Alaska. Alaska has a winery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
they have some in Canada, some British Columbia.
Yeah.
So, it's not too far.
Fascinating. I love it. All right. So besides the job you're doing today, running Wine Pulse, what else would you be doing if you weren't doing that?
If I was retired,
Hell, call it what you want. Retired, or maybe you were going to start something else as well.
Well, I do. You know what? I'm running another business, so I never.
Oh, you are.
It's very separate. My days are busy. I'm an importer of recycling water systems, of gray water systems. I import them from Taiwan, and I resell to other people in the US, or I sell direct.
Wow. That is a totally different business.
Completely different business. I've been doing it for 12 years.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely, yeah. There is a strict line of separation between the two businesses.
Yes. Wow.
Legal,
okay, I just feel like we need another.
How I manage my time.
We need another podcast. It's a separate.
That would be a completely other topic.
Wow, that's it. Just out of curiosity, you go direct to consumer online, or you do it through other channels?
100% online. 100%
wow.
100% online.
Wow.
No store, nothing.
It's funny. I do hear a lot about gray water. I mean, that is it's a big deal, right? I mean, it's people, it's a thing.
There's a lot of talk about it.
Yeah, interesting. All right, very nice. Okay. So what is your go-to SaaS or app that you love? Maybe it's on your phone or on your computer. You just can't live without, besides Wine Pulse. Okay. Something it's like you just can't live without this thing. Like mine is Slack. I can't live without Slack.
No, I'm not using Slack. I don't know, something between Twitter and QuickBooks.
Okay. Oh, all right. Nice. Okay. Two different sides of your brain right there. Twitter.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you know what? The morning coffee, after being sure that all the data have been synchronized, is split between a few minutes in QuickBooks and a few more minutes in Twitter.
Yeah, we'll talk about data. You're practicing what you preach. You're going into QuickBooks. I assume maybe running reports in QuickBooks, making sure everything is synced correctly.
Yeah, it's more like that. Yeah, and to know where the business are and and what's happening. I think it's important to.
So important.
You shouldn't be obsessed with it, but you should know. Okay, especially the bigger trends and what's happening. Because there's so much noise. Yeah, I mean, you run a business. I mean, it's a small business, obviously, but there's still a lot of noise. Your days are busy. You're bombarded with emails, requests.
Sure.
But always, and I like the early morning. Say, okay, what is the big picture here?
Right. That's great. So, if you could give yourself one talent that you currently don't have, what would it be?
There's plenty of them for sure. I don't know, a ton. Maybe I should dream bigger. I admire people who have these big visions, and I'm happy where I am.
That's beautiful.
And dream bigger.
I go through phases. I dream big, and then I realize, that's a lot of work to dream big, because you have to actually. All right, let's keep it focused here, and then I dream big. It's a little bit of ebb and flow, I guess, in the dreaming department. But dreams are great. Dreams are wonderful.
Yeah, I should dream bigger.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so last question for you is, what's your favorite online store and why? Doesn't have to be wine. Anywhere you want.
So it's actually going to be wine. And it's
okay. All right.
And it would, and that would be. I'm not gonna. Well, yeah, I can say it. I buy a lot of import wines from France and Italy, and I use Kermit Lynch. It's a distributor in Berkeley.
All right, beautiful. Thank you.
Other than that, I'm not a big into like buying stuff online.
Right. Okay.
That would be more my wife or soon my daughter. I think she's getting to an age where. We're in that boat. We have the Amazon approve. He has to get approval before he is built into Amazon, where they can't
press, but that's beautiful. Michael just put it up in the background.
Oh yeah,
That's
and again, I have zero relationship with them. Just nice people.
Yeah.
And,
No, so you can go online. You can buy through them. They ship direct.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Oh, of course.
All right, I will look them up.
Selection. Amazing.
Wow, beautiful.
And they really go off the beaten path.
Wow,
Really
a lot of biodynamic, sustainable, organic.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Big time into these things.
Beautiful.
And very small producers sometimes.
Okay. Love that. Love that. Well, Remy, thank you so much. I know, now that we know you're running two businesses, and you had your coffee this morning.
You know what? I'm giving an interview to a journalist at noon in relationship to the other business.
Yeah. I love it. Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your insights on the metrics, the important metrics, looking back at that report that you put out for 2022, helping wineries ultimately, understand how to take action from their metrics. And this has been wonderful, wonderful. And as I mentioned, as a side note, we have a second podcast coming up with a good friend of yours, Zach, over at Commerce 7, and we're talking about the future of DTC. So it's a very nice transition. It's a day filled with conversations about wineries, how to help them grow. So I completely appreciate you taking the time to do it. If you could just take a moment, for those who don't know where to find Wine Pulse, if you could tell them and maybe how they can connect with you directly, that would be wonderful.
They can just go to winepulse.com and they will find information. They can request a demo directly from on winepulse.com. I respond very fast to any demo request, and they might like what they see.
Yeah, and look up on the screen. We've got a QR code that you can just scan right off the screen, and it'll take you directly to winepulse.com where you can schedule a demo.
And Remy, thank you for the opportunity and for the great questions. And another great thing coming from Texas.
Love it. I love it. Well, thank you very much, Remy. Have a wonderful day, and we will share this to the world. Okay.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right, everybody. This brings us to the end of another podcast. This is number 29. So thank you very much for tuning in. Tune in about an hour or so and some change for our next podcast with about Commerce 7 and what the future of DTC looks like for wineries. And don't forget to check out past episodes of our podcast, all available at skuagency.com/podcast, as well as all the on-demand videos are available on YouTube as well. As always, if you need help with your email marketing for your winery, please definitely reach out to us. You can go to skuagency.com/wine and book a 30-minute complimentary call. We'll take a look at what's happening in the world of email marketing and how we can ultimately help you, fix those, fix that attrition number, get that up, make sure that you are, holding on to your wine club customers and ultimately growing your winery business. So thank you very much, everybody.